All right, well, my name is Blair Moore Raggio, and I'm Dawn Moore's daughter, this wonderful woman sitting next to me. For those that don't know Dawn, she is CEO and owner of Allegiance Title Company. I joined her about a year ago, and I'm both an escrow officer in our Preston Center office and an attorney for the company. This afternoon, I'll be moderating a conversation between her and Dale Petrosky, CEO and president of the Dallas Regional Chamber. We're going to discuss Dallas and how much it's changed in 2020 from both a real estate perspective and a business perspective, and we're also going to talk about what the new normal will look like as we approach 2021. We are filming this event at the Slate Studios today in Dallas, where we had our last Facebook Live event. And we're grateful to partner with the Slate again, aren't we, Dawn?
It's a great place.
I know we've had a lot of our customers watching this event today and our last time, but there are some people who don't know what Allegiance Title is. So let me give you a little background. We're an independent title company in Texas with 24 locations, and we're continuing to grow. We provide statewide services for residential and commercial sales and refinances. 18 of our 24 offices are in the DFW Metroplex, so while we do have a growing presence in Houston, our largest footprint is in Dallas. And we are also a proud member of the Dallas Regional Chamber, which Dale is the CEO and president of. It's a chamber of commerce that represents businesses and institutions in North Texas. Dale will tell us a little bit more today. We're especially grateful to partner with the chamber and be a part of it as this year because they have kept us so well informed. As we know, things have changed constantly with the COVID crisis. Ever since the COVID crisis started, the chamber has been great in helping organize and facilitate dozens of virtual events about the state of the public health, our local political system, job opportunities, workplace best practices, education changes, infrastructure changes, and so much more. Thank you, Dale.
Thank you.
In terms of the event format, I will ask Dawn and Dale some questions that I've already prepared, and then we will get to some Q&A at the end. So I'm asking everyone to hold your questions till the end, put them in the comments of the live session, and then we'll get to as many of them as we can at the end, but we're going to get started with the program that I've already prepared today. So before I get started, I kind of want to go over Dale's resume because it's pretty impressive. I want to share some impressive things about you. Dale has been president and CEO of the Dallas Regional Chamber since April 2014.
That's right.
And some of his other previous positions include president of the National Baseball Hall of Fame and the museum in Cooperstown, New York. And before that, it was serving as vice president for the National Geographic Society. And he was assistant White House press secretary for President Reagan. So Dale,
you don't look that old.
Impressive resume.
Looking older by the day, Dawn.
You're looking good to us, Dale. So Dale, but in 2014, you were approached and you were asked to be president and CEO of the Dallas Regional Chamber. So what interests you about that job opportunity?
Well, I was interested in interviewing for it. I didn't know that I would get it because I knew it was a great job. But Ambassador Oberwetter was the CEO of the Dallas Regional Chamber. He had been the U.S. ambassador in Saudi Arabia. And he turned 65 that year, and he decided that he wanted to retire. Actually, I was out in Los Angeles, working for an energy company, and I got a call from one of my best friends, Talmadge Boston, who said, Dale, there's an opening in the position of president of the Dallas Regional Chamber, and you might be pretty good at that. Would you like to come back to Dallas? And so I talked to my wife about it, and I thought, it's kind of an interesting job because it has all the things in it that are required for it that speak to my background, which is the political side of it because we deal with a lot of public policy issues. The nonprofit side of it, it's a nonprofit, and National Geographic was a nonprofit when I was there, and the Baseball Hall of Fame was a nonprofit. I understood the runnings of a nonprofit. And then the idea of working in a winning business community. Dallas is a winning business community. Los Angeles is not. I mean, there couldn't be a bigger difference between two communities than Los Angeles and Dallas relative to how they view business and how they value business. And so I thought, I'd like to try and interview for that job. So she said, okay. She said, sounds good. So interviewed for it, and as luck would have it, I was chosen. And it's the best job I've ever had. I tell people,
We're glad to hear that.
I tell people all the time because I go in every single day. One, the work is really important. This is a wonderful community that is a winning community, but we always have our challenges. We're always trying to make it better. I get to work with wonderful business leaders like Dawn. I get to work with wonderful staff who are very smart and very hardworking, and we get to do work worth doing. And I'm stretched every single day in public policy or in the other things that I've learned along the way, but I know I can do it. So when I go home at night, I'm exhausted, but I'm satisfied, and I get up every morning just raring to go again. I can't wait to get back at it in the morning. So.
Well, Dallas is lucky to have you, Dale.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Dawn.
and you sound impressive, Dale, but it sounds like you have a pretty smart wife to bring you back to Dallas, too.
She loves it here, yeah.
Well, good. And so you kind of talked about your day and just being exhausted from it, but what are your main responsibilities as president and CEO of the Chamber?
So we work in 4 big areas. One is economic development. That's bringing companies and jobs to the community. And there's no community that's been more successful at that than Dallas in the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, 140 companies have moved their headquarters from somewhere else to Dallas. It's not easy to move a headquarters, but they want to do it bad enough that 140 of them have done it in the last 10 years. 1 million new jobs have been created here in the last 10 years. So this is a very welcoming and attractive community for a lot of companies. So economic development is one. The second area that we work in is education and workforce. Really important to educate our young people. And there are a lot of folks. This is in some sense the tale of 2 cities. Dallas is. We have wonderful schools, in certain parts of this community. Probably none better anywhere in the country. If you think about the private schools and the public schools in the nice areas, but we also have a real education gap here in some of the poorer areas too. So we spend a lot of our time working to get the folks who are struggling a little bit up to a better level so the income gap is lessened. And we work on education and workforce to make sure that our companies have the workers they need to do the jobs that need to be done. The third area is public policy, and that's working with the state in Austin and Washington and City Hall to make sure that we have business-friendly practices and that we're supporting the kinds of things that like new roads and education funding and things like that. And then the fourth area, fairly new area for us, but it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. In the last couple of months, with a lot of that's going on around the country, we decided we're going to double down, and we're going to make that its own pillar as part of our strategic plan. And we've hired a new senior vice president for community engagement and a new senior vice president for diversity, equity, and inclusion, both African Americans. And we're very excited to do this work. And our board has leaned in. We have 100 board members, and 50 of them have decided they want to be part of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council to help this work. So that's sort of the day-to-day of what we do.
I'm very excited about your 4th pillar, and I can't wait to hear some more of that, because I think we can all jump in and help on that.
So
That'd be
happy to hear
great.
that, Dawn. Thank you.
So it's new since COVID started, really.
Oh yeah, it's new in the last couple of months. So we've dealt with COVID, and then we've dealt with, the after George Floyd
Wow.
Activity, and we jumped in both feet.
Sounds like y'all have got a lot going on, to say it simply.
Yeah, we do.
So, I mean, you kind of touched on it, but really, how does the Chamber really, I guess, support DFW is kind of how I've said it. You've talked about your 3 pillars, but what are kind of more the day-to-day operations of supporting the DFW region?
Well, we do everything in collaboration with a lot of other people. So, for example, let's take Amazon. The Amazon bid a couple of years ago, where we finished, there were 200 communities that submitted bids for Amazon to come there, and we finished 3rd out of 200. Okay, they went to the 2 other places, New York, and the suburbs of Washington and in Crystal City, Virginia. They struck out up in New York, actually. They should have come here first.
Yeah, for reasons we would have taken better care of
But the
them.
point is, we worked with 46 communities. We're the regional chamber. So let me explain why the regional chamber is different. When we go to California and mention to a company they might want to look at the Dallas area, we don't care where they land. All we care is that they come to this region. And if we can get them here, we can introduce them to our friends in Plano or Richardson. If they want to be in a tech corridor, we introduce them to Richardson. They want to be near the airport, we introduce them to Irving. They want to be downtown. We're kind of like Luka Doncic, passing off and letting the others score. And I think that's one of the reasons we've been so successful, is because we're sort of the honest broker in all this. And that's why Plano's got so many new companies, and Richardson does, and Irving does, and downtown does, is because they can't go out and do that themselves necessarily. Mm-hmm. We can, but we bring them here, and then we know all the folks that we can pass them
On the
to.
program you were on earlier today, Why Texas, you meant one of your compatriots in Austin talked about Tesla moving there, and even though they've touted 5,000 jobs, they think each one of those jobs bring 4 more.
Yeah.
So with your regional activity, I'm going to submit to you, if they land in Plano, there's still the ripple effect that will affect all of the communities around it.
It's such a great point, Dawn. When Toyota moved here, in 2014, they brought 5,000 people. They actually, I think there were 3,000 that moved from California, mm-hmm. and then they filled the rest of those 2,000 jobs with local folks. But their law firms moved here, their suppliers moved here. They wanted to be close to the action, mm-hmm. and that brings all those other people who come too. So yeah, it's not just the big company, there are a lot of companies that come with it too.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Right.
So Dawn, I'll kind of step to you now.
Okay.
As president and CEO of Allegiance, what are your job roles?
Well, I guess as CEO of the company, my main function is to set the direction of the company. But I will submit to you, I have the pleasure of leading an executive team and management team that are second to none in their desire to serve the customer, both internally and externally. And what I mean by internally, it's our internal staff, the people that work right under them. They help to grow those people and create a career for them. And we've been very blessed to have a robust year in spite of COVID this year that I know we'll talk a little bit about. But as CEO, then it also gives me the opportunity, and I think it brings back benefit to the company to serve within my industry. I have served as lawyer on the Texas Broker Lawyer Committee, Texas Real Estate Commission, writing the contracts that the real estate agents use. I have served on the board of the Texas Land Title Association, serving as president of that in 14-15. This year I co-authored the legal course that the realtors have to take this year, and then I did serve on the Texas State Affordable Housing as chair of the board for years and afforded affordable housing. With all of that, the main thing is to know what's going on in Texas, to know what legislative issues and policy issues and court cases are coming up, so I can better serve our customers and our customers both internally and externally, and keep them informed about what's going on.
Yeah, I'd like to say something about all the amazing extracurricular, if you will, they're tied, I know that, but activities that you're involved in. I once met with Lamont Thomas. He's the head of Cigna. Mm-hmm. And Lamont Thomas told me a story about how he got recruited into Cigna, and the idea was that, I said, and he told me they started him out in HR, then they moved him to sales, then they moved him all around. I said, they must have really had a plan for you. Mm-hmm. He said, no, they had no plan for me. He said, I learned all my leadership by serving as a volunteer on civic boards.
Wow.
Where I could try things out, or I could learn a lot of things, but I could try things out outside of the sight of my supervisors and fail from time to time, but learn from that, and that allowed me to be a leader. And it wasn't necessarily they were training me, but I picked all this up on the outside. But I was just going to say, your customers are so lucky to have you, because it's not just what you're doing internally, but you got your finger on the pulse of everything else going around. You have relationships all over the state too.
You're very kind, but your tidbit just there about learning from other styles of leadership. Mm-hmm. I know who I want to follow and who I want to work with and for as an Indian, and it helps me be a better chief then. Yeah.
So you're right on. You're a servant leader. I can see that too. Yeah.
Well, you two are both a hard act to follow, I'm going to say, for this next generation coming in. But I say we all look up to both of you, so thank you for all that you both do, just volunteer-wise and internally with your employees. So it's pretty cool and a pretty impressive thing to watch. as Allegiance goes into the community, how does Allegiance help the Dallas community in particular as just a company?
Well, we've taken a real role in education of our customers, and we're kind of known for that. We have some really good education sources on our website. We have education and tools for our buyers and sellers of all kinds of property, primarily residential property. We are also known for our weekly sharing tips and podcasts that we do, that we really try and cover really current challenges and provide solutions to those of us that are in the field that are working. I have subscribers from the realtor community, subscribers from my own industry. My competitors say they use my videos to educate themselves and also be able to take that out to their customers. And really, our mission focus is to be your trusted resource for results, and we act by that every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I may be biased, but I agree with her.
Thanks, honey bun.
That being said, a lot has changed with this COVID crisis, so the things that we are doing as companies and as the Chamber's doing in Dallas has changed a lot. So what challenges has the Chamber had to deal with, Dale, as this COVID crisis has come into play?
So I'm going to tell you a little story. I happened to be in Florida in early March, seeing my mom. My wife and I were there. And we were there for a week, and we got on a plane on March the 10th.
Oh, wow.
And I did not watch the news all week. I just really kind of tuned out. I was interested in spending time with mom, watching baseball, playing golf, doing all the fun things, and I just really didn't watch the news. Went to the Fort Myers airport, and didn't notice any difference. Got on an airplane, didn't notice any difference. Got off the plane, went to bed, got up in the morning, got to the office, and my COO said, "We got to make some decisions." I said, "About what?" She said, "COVID." I said, "What's COVID?" Basically, I mean, really, I was that out of it, right? And so called my senior, it was a Friday, I think. I called my senior team together on Saturday morning. I said, "Okay, let's talk about this," So sat around the table for all morning, and we decided we were going to split the team into, we have 14 different departments in our operation. Now you're either going to be on one team or the other team. There are two teams now: communications and member engagement. That's it. I don't care what else you're doing in your life. You're a communicator now, or you're a member engagement person. We're going to be as close to our members as we possibly can be, so that we know what they need every minute of every day and how we can help them. This team was going to be communicating information that was going to be helpful to our members, okay? And it could be what the governor was saying, what the mayor was saying, what the county judge was saying, or it could be, here's a best practice of this community right now that the rest of you need to know about. Or it could be, this is the charitable work these folks are engaged in right now. That to give them an idea, is we have very charitable companies here. So the communicators did their thing, the member engagement folks did their thing. And we did that, we still kind of are still set up that way, but intensely we did that for about 4 months. And so that's the way we did it. The other thing we did early on, when people were losing their jobs through no fault of their own, they happened to be in the wrong industry. They were in the airline industry. They worked for American Airlines or Southwest. And whoever thought we'd have a pandemic, right? Or they worked for Omni Hotels, or they worked, for a restaurant, lost their jobs. But there were other industries that were hiring, grocery stores and pharmacies and warehouses. So we set up a jobs website where all those folks could go to it and say, I used to be in airlines, now I'm going to be in pharmacies, right? And they could find another job quickly. So we tried to adapt and be of service right away to this community. And then helping small businesses. Most small businesses are day to day. They might have a month's worth of savings in the bank. They might own a pizzeria, and that's been their life for 40 years, and they're 1 month ahead. Well, now, boom, that money has been spent. How do you save that company? Because that company's not just a company, it's their life. It's their family's life. And so we worked with Trey Bowles to set up the Revive Fund, which is we raised money for it so that we could get money to small businesses so they could actually have a lifeline through these tough times and try to come out the other end. So it's just trying to see where the need is and trying to fill it the best we could.
Sounds like y'all are doing a great job as a chamber.
We're doing the best we can. I wish we could help 100% of them, but
Giving that
we're
help
doing the best
with
we can.
jobs was fabulous.
yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I know Allegiance Title has also faced some challenges, and what would you say are the biggest challenges that Allegiance has had since COVID?
Well, following a little bit on your line is communicating
Yeah.
and in keeping the communication open. But we were an essential business from day one, and so we had to adapt because we were front line. And as the community prays for our healthcare workers and our frontline people, I was praying every day for my staff because we were on the front line. We were continuing to service this, and all of a sudden then the interest rates dropped in an effort to help through this pandemic, which doubled our business and the refinances. And yet we all had to learn to do the best we could in person as well as a hybrid closing because the electronic closing hadn't been fully adopted yet. So we had to figure out how to create a safe environment for our employees and a safe environment for our customers. And so oftentimes we came up with, we had the curbside closing, we had the mobile notary. Texas has the benefit of having remote online notary, but the lenders hadn't yet adopted that. So we had to learn how to get our frontline people as little exposure to the customer, and the customer as little exposure to us to protect them. So that's when we came up with the curbside closings. Then it got so hot in the summers, that was difficult for everybody to do. So it was an adjustment almost on a weekly basis with communication out to the team on how to handle something and what would be the best practice. And if people got frustrated, because as you and I were talking before, we wish people had a little bit more patience and kindness in the thoughts. Different people are handling this differently and have different concerns about it. So we need the patience and the concern as we work through this because nobody has all the answers. You're just doing the best you can to protect everybody. So we've kind of evolved. We're now letting people in our offices, but we're asking just the signers come. That minimizes exposures to our customer and to our staff. We have the plexiglass barriers like everybody else does. We ask for them to wear the masks. Nothing of this is comfortable, but it's something that we need to adjust to. So I think one of the hardest times I had is it was ever changing at the very beginning. The answers were coming out differently on a daily basis. People were trying to figure it out and just keeping the communication levels up. So as you said, you divided your team into communication. Our executive staff constantly said, okay, what do we need to get out to our team today?
Yeah.
What do we need to tell them today?
Yeah. What we've learned is you can't over-communicate and you can't over-collaborate. There's no such thing as over-communication or over-collaboration.
We had the benefit also of having our weekly video already that was going to over 1,000 subscribers in the state. And we immediately put something out on that, and people were so grateful to just hear something. And so we use that platform to get out to our customers on a regular basis as well.
I will say it's been nice too with the Dallas Regional Chamber. We actually do have some dedicated staff that actually attends all of the virtual meetings, which has been really helpful because of the best practices that y'all let us know what other companies are doing, and we've tried to follow suit. And obviously, you kind of have to pave your own way too. But
you pick up an idea here or there, right? I picked up an idea from Dawn today about the what you call it?
Homework in a cafe.
Homework in a cafe, helping parents of young children navigate this whole world of online learning for their kids, and because it can be overwhelming. They're trying to raise kids, they're trying to do their jobs, and they're trying to get their kids educated in a very different way. So I'm taking that idea back.
We're real pleased with that program and being able to offer it to our staff, and many are taking advantage of it. But my kids are grown and they've done well in their education. I can't imagine having to deal with the younger age group now. So this Homework in a Cafe came to us through one of my employees, and we've offered it to all of our team.
pick up those ideas and run with them. That's what I say.
Maybe to give our audience a little bit of an idea of what Homework in a Cafe is, I still want to talk a little bit about the economy and COVID crisis. We'll go into it, but could you just kind of explain what the Homework in a Cafe is?
Well, we discovered Homework in a Cafe, as I said, through an employee of ours, and the woman who owns this and runs it had a Kumon tutoring. Anyway, her team can get online with the online assignments for the kids that are working from home. They're in online schools, and they can see their assignments. They work with them the Monday that they get their assignments, set out kind of a schedule for the kids. Then they have tutors available, so we provide the coach on Monday, the tutors on Tuesday and Wednesday. But what Homework in a Cafe does, it helps the kids get through their assignment. But more importantly, once they get through those assignments, they send an email to the parents at 6 o'clock every day telling how well the kids have done, or if there's a couple assignments left. And then on Friday, they send one email to the parents that say, okay, of this week's assignment, we got all of these done. There are 3 or 4 more that you need to do. And it has helped our parents who are working all day, not worried about coming home and then checking through every assignment. They have someone else who's guarding that. Plus, this group can help the kids on some of the online technology issues that they're having, which that's difficult too.
You know, it sounds like that's something that might go on beyond COVID. I mean, there's a service for working parents that could be very valuable, even beyond this sort of electronic learning.
And as a new normal, whether this electronic learning, whether this will be always the way they'll be doing it, I don't know. But they could adapt to the new normal. If they get their assignments at school, I bet they're posted online somewhere as well from now on.
Exactly.
So you're right, it could continue.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, I'm going to turn a little bit back towards the COVID crisis, although Homework in Cafe was a little bit off topic. I just want to go back. So, Dale, going back to you, I know a lot of international and national companies are reevaluating during this pandemic. What do you see for the Dallas growth as a city for those international national companies coming and leaving and that kind of thing?
Well, I think this is good news for Dawn and for Allegiant. What we're seeing is that a lot of companies are reevaluating where they are. They don't necessarily like to pay high rents in high rent areas on the East Coast and the West Coast. They don't like the high density of those communities because it's more risky now, has been shown through the pandemic. And so they're starting to look at us, you know, and I'll give you one statistic. In New York City, in Manhattan, it's 29,000 people per square mile. Think about that. In Dallas, it's 4,000 people per square mile. And so they could come here, get rid of their very expensive home. You know, I'm talking about employees now and executives. Come here, live a beautiful life, and have a lot of space, pick where they want to go, because we have a lot of space to choose from. We have a lot of choices. They could be up in Plano or Frisco or Irving or Richardson or wherever, and move their companies here. And so when this all started, we had 50 companies who were looking at us. When I say looking at us, looking to move. But that's a little bit misleading because they're not all going to move, but we're on their list. Now we have 90 companies where we're on their list.
Wow.
And so I think when we come out of this, and I believe 2021 is going to be a tough year, but I think going into 2022, when the smoke starts to clear a little bit, we're going to be in really good shape. And we're going to win even more than we have in the past.
All right, so I feel like I'm getting a little bit of a sales pitch from you, but what is the change in your sales pitch to the companies now, when the pandemic started versus what it was before?
I think the low density, because, you know, let's face it, if you don't live here, you really don't know this community very well. So we give them all the reasons that they should have been looking at us in the first place, and they know those. It's a great Texas business climate, low taxes, reasonable regulations. But it's also the central location, the 2 great airports, you know, the very reasonable cost of living, the talent pool here. You know, it's something that a lot of people don't realize is that Dallas, in our university systems, we have twice as many college graduates here as Austin, as Houston, as any other Texas city. And it's because we have UNT, UTD, UTA, SMU, TCU. We don't have the University of Texas at Austin, And we don't have, maybe the University of Houston, we have a bunch of universities, and together they bring a lot of different kinds of talent. And so talent is really a big advantage for us too.
Well, and I think that Dallas is a diamond in the rough. People don't understand the arts and the culture that we have here.
Great point.
And one more shout out to our Dallas Zoo. I am chairman-elect of the Dallas
Are
Zoo.
you?
And we're in the top 10 in the nation.
Yes.
And it's just a beautiful facility. It's open now, of course, managed with people, but it's just a beautiful facility. But we have so many arts here that people don't know about, and it's here, it's available.
Thank you for bringing that up.
It's great.
Very important.
That's true.
Congratulations on being chair of the zoo. Wow.
That's
The
another.
giraffes.
That's another winning team.
I know,
That is
yeah.
another
Hal
winning
Brierly
team, and
and
it's
Diane
it's
and
fun to be
all
part
those
of a
folks.
winning team, as you
That's
know.
neat.
So jumping to you, Dawn, economists have predicted that there's going to be a big change in urban versus suburbs and people wanting to move out to the suburbs. What does that look like for the Dallas housing market? Do you see people wanting to move to the suburbs now?
Well, it's interesting because, as I think Dale says, even in Dallas, we're spread out from urban areas in general, so we really have the benefit there. But what I am seeing is are people getting out of the apartments. They're wanting to move into a home, and we've heard that there's been millennials who have not bought homes because they didn't know the investment. Now it's not so much an investment. It's having space and having their own space, not having to walk down the hall of their apartment building and pass everybody on their way to work. So we've had a very robust year, not just with refinances, but sales picked up. They've slowed in April and May, but they just picked up dramatically in June, July, and August. Normally we have a little bit of a slowdown toward the end of August as school gets started. Well, school hasn't really, they're still online. So we've had a really good market. And yes, I am seeing people want space. I'm also seeing people buying some lake houses that they can go travel to, since they can't travel their European trips overseas. They're needing some place to go for the weekends, and there's a lot of lake houses that are selling, and the median price of homes have gone up as a result of this. So it's an interesting market. As an economics major, I didn't plan this during this COVID time.
Don, do you think that, and I'll take my employees, young employees living in apartments, doing their work from Zoom, and feel those walls closing in on them more and more, and that's why they've decided, I need out of here. I need to go find some space of my own.
I think I would say, in little confined spaces, you get tired of that pretty fast. And when you didn't have other outlets and other avenues to go, people were moving. And I do believe people moved houses. Partly they might have sped up a year because they're just tired of where they were. So they were ready to move.
Yeah, interesting.
So Dale, without getting too far into a political conversation, how do you foresee the upcoming election really impacting the Dallas economy, in North Texas?
I would say, we're in a democracy. We've had Democratic presidents, we've had Republican presidents, we've had Democratic Congresses, we've had Republican Congresses, all within the last 15 years. And so you just deal with it. Whatever comes at you, I believe the business community is resilient. I think they pay attention. I think they know how to advocate for themselves, whichever party is in power. And I think we'll come out of it just fine regardless.
Well, Dawn, do you have any ideas on how it'll affect the housing market?
It's just interesting to think about it. Always, whenever there's an election year, not necessarily in the off year, but when the top ticket is the president, always an election year, we have uncertainty in our market, and so we see a slowdown, kind of waiting for that election to occur. Always, no matter president is a Republican or a Democrat, it gets back to normal pretty darn quickly. The difference this year, we just haven't seen that slowdown. So the uncertainty is so across the board. The election is just one piece of it. And we've a little bit overcome that, I think, lower interest rates, and then people, as I said, wanting to move, getting space, spreading out. So I haven't seen the uncertainty. Yes, we've slowed down a little bit since our August big month, but not much. We're still we're probably 50% more than we were last year at this time.
Congratulations. Wow. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, for those that want to keep up with best practices in the real estate market, I'm going to piggyback on what Dawn was talking about earlier. Dawn produces a podcast video, which is called The Tip of the Week. And Dale, we were talking about that a little bit earlier. And where Dawn gives our clients and keeps them informed on issues that she sees with changes in the title and legal industries here in Texas, and just more broadly Texas as a whole, but on a statewide basis. We're in Dallas and Houston, so she markets to those places as well. In 2020, she's received some inquiries more than usual in the real estate market from lenders and real estate agents, specifically with COVID. So Dawn, what are the most asked questions recently? Maybe the two most asked questions.
Or the most interesting questions.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're when the COVID hit, we got lots of emails from law firms talking about the force majeure clause of contracts, which is a big force that creates obstacles for performance under the contract. So that has been the biggest issue that we've had in our real estate contracts. How do we handle if a buyer cannot perform because the lender closed down, or the county clerk wasn't open to file the documents? You couldn't get a transaction closed through no fault of their own, but you couldn't get it. Were they relieved of the contract? And it's real interesting. Texas law is really strict on that. And then Texas law then talks about the fact that it has to be unforeseeable. Well, now it's no longer unforeseeable. So now how do we deal with it? So I've talked to a lot of people about a COVID-19 addendum to the contract, and that's, of course, it's totally up to the buyer and seller if they want to do it. In reality, nothing is perfect in this world, and that's where I go back to. I'm asking people for patience, for kindness, for concern. Each person has a different level of concern, and so things may not go as smoothly as we'd all like it to, but we have to understand that and give a little bit of patience. But that has been the biggest question. Then the other question is, why can't you do it electronically? Why can't we just send you the papers, you sign at night in your bedroom slippers? Well, many people still need the help of explanation, coordination of the documents, and want to be there. Then the lenders need immediately papers back, so it doesn't work. But Texas did provide for the remote online notary 2 years ago. It's just Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who are the biggest secondary market for these notes and loans, hadn't adopted it. So they came out with their FAQs and said that they were planning to fully adopt remote online notary, with other states adopting it, because right now only a couple of states had it in place, and they were going to adopt it by September 2022. Well, that's 2 years from now. They did move up their timeline, hoping to fully adopt it in 2020, but it hasn't really rolled out. So the lenders still require wet ink signatures. And then our law says to notarize, you have to be in physical presence. The governor did allow us an executive order under emergency to do notarization by webcam, but we're still finding people don't really feel comfortable doing it that way. They still want the presence of an escrow officer walking them through the papers. So it's been, those kind of things have been the questions. How can we do it better? Yes, we've developed hybrids, and this will come, but we're not there yet. And I don't know when it will come. It'll be a couple of years.
Yeah. Well, speaking, a couple of years we see some changes coming about, but what does 2021 look for the housing market?
Well, all of the economists on the housing market have said it will be another good year because low interest rates. So it's interesting to define good, because I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but Texas right now as we deal with this. And so we may have an we will have probably still some jobs creation that we really, really need to work on. But a lot of people had a lot of savings, and they were ready to buy but had no impetus to buy, and now they're buying. And so all the economists say we will have a good year next year. It won't be the high growth rate we've had the last couple of years, but it'll be better than it has been before. So I take that as we're going to have a good year, and I'm looking forward. We've got the staff in place, the technology in place to now handle it. It was a juggle when it first came, with double the orders and double the business, finding good staff and procedures that could take care of it. Now we're ready for it.
Well, Dale and I already mentioned you've kept us afloat during this crisis, and
Well,
your
thank
team.
you for that. I didn't even know that.
We give you lots of credit around our place. But you've also kept a lot of businesses afloat. You and your team,
Thank you.
the communication you've talked about, best practices, all of the things that are changing. What has been the most important lesson that you've learned as head of the chamber?
Gosh, that's a great question. I think the most important lesson I've learned is that we live in a wonderful community of people who want to do well and want to do good and want to help each other and really can, when times get tough, they're willing to lock arms and get it done. And I think that is very reassuring, because you don't know what people are like until you go through the tough times together. And I think by going through the tough times, you begin to realize how lucky you really are. And then the second lesson, I guess, that I've learned is what a wonderful staff I have, because it's not, these are tough times to work too. I mean, you're on Zoom calls, and we use Teams actually, and Microsoft Teams. But the upside of that, though, Blair, is that I think I've gotten to know my staff, and everyone's gotten to know one another better, ironically, through this than being together. And I'll tell you why. When you look at a screen and you're in meetings with people and you see their kids and you see their pets, and and I start every meeting by calling on somebody. They don't know it's coming, but I say, show us something fun. And they go get a picture of something, of their parents or someplace they've traveled to, and it means something to them. You know a little bit more about that person. And so if you do this for 6 months, now you know a lot about that person, right? And we do happy hours where we have themes. One was a pet parade, which was, okay, you sign up ahead of time, and we had a moderator. Mike Rosa was like our Al Roker. So he'd say, okay, here comes Henry Petrosky, and it's our dog.
So cute.
And Henry loves ice cream, and he hates when his parents leave him alone, right? And then we go to somebody's cat, and then somebody's lizard, and somebody's chicken, and it was just so much fun. And we made sure all the kids were on it. All the kids of all the little ones were sitting there watching this pet parade go by. So, you can get close. Ironically, you can get closer to people through this in a funny way. And then when we come back, we're going to all know each other a little bit better, maybe. So I think I've learned a lot about my team, and I'm really I like them even more than I did before.
That's great. That's great.
Dawn, are you taking notes on these fun happy hours they're doing over there?
Yeah, if I can get you guys out of the office at 5,
Exactly.
it would be great. You work harder than I do.
Well, speaking of this new normal that you're talking about with Zoom calls and getting to know everyone better, it seems like it's been a good thing for y'all, but do you foresee us going back to normal? Or what does our local economy look like to you going into the future?
Well, I think the economy will do very well in the long run. I think 2021 might be we're not going to be back to normal in 2021. That's my guess. I think some industries like yours will do well. They talk about a K-shaped recovery. You've heard about the V-shaped recovery, fast down and fast up, or the M-shaped recovery, or W-shaped recovery, fast down, up, up. I'm hearing lately about the K-shaped recovery, which makes a lot of sense to me. Some industries are doing very well. Technology, healthcare, other industries, and other industries are doing very badly. Airlines, hotels, restaurants, and so forth. So it's a little bit of a tale of two cities in some ways. But I think from going back to the office standpoint, maybe, which is what you're asking about, Blair, I think everybody, and I have 2 daughters who just want to work from home. I mean, that's what they want to do. And I said, well, you can work from home all you want, and that's nice, but it's probably not very good for your career, because out of sight, out of mind. And when you're in the office, you're learning from people. You're picking up cues from people. Somebody has an idea, somebody has a better idea, now your brain is firing, you know. When you're home, those serendipitous moments don't come along very often. You have planned meetings and you click on and you click off. There's no walking from the meeting to the next meeting and you're talking and you say, oh, we could do that, right? Or we could do this. So I think that's one piece of why it's so important that we get people back to work. The second piece is, and Dawn and I were talking about it earlier, over time, people leave and new people come. And when new people come, how do you make them part of your culture when it's online? If they really haven't built trust with anybody, they don't know anybody, they don't know that this person's really like this and this person's really like this, and you know, how do I read them on those calls and so forth? So I think in the short term we can do it, but I don't think long term this is the answer. I think there'll be more of it. I think we'll probably get on a plane less to go to New York for meetings now, and maybe have some of those by Zoom because it'll save us time and we can do it just as well if we know the people already. But I don't think it's 100% we're staying home and working from home.
I would agree with you.
Well, y'all have answered all of my questions today, so I think we're going to move on to the Q&A session. For all of you listening out there, please drop your comments into the live session, and we'll try to get to as many as we can, at least today. And if we can't, please send questions for Allegiance Title to tipoftheweek@allegiancetitle.com. And then if you have a question for Dale or his team, you can send an email to information@dallaschamber.com. .org.
That's
Thank
right.
you. DallasChamber.org for Dale. I already saw a question here, so let me pull that one up for us. This one is for Dale. Is there a job sector needing employees, and how do people find those opportunities?
Okay, Dawn, if you could say it
Job
again.
sector.
Is
There's a
it-
particular job sector, but you have the postings on yours of people who are looking for
That's
employees.
correct, yeah.
don't
If
you?
you were to go to our website and go to Say Yes to Dallas, which is our talent attraction portion of our website, that's where we do our jobs postings. So companies actually post their open jobs where people can go and look for them.
Have you had a lot of success through that?
Oh yeah, thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And they, I think last I saw, they'd looked at like 250,000 jobs.
Oh, wow.
Now they might look at them more than once, but there are a lot of people looking at jobs.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's a
It's a
new thing since
wonderful
COVID.
Since COVID, yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful benefit. You think you'll keep that up after
I
COVID?
think so.
Yeah.
Those are one of those things, Dawn,
Yeah.
that you start it, and
Yeah.
why didn't we have
Why
this
didn't
before?
have it before it? Yeah.
Right?
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, another question for Dale. Compared to other large cities like Atlanta, LA, that we've already talked a little bit about today, how is Dallas doing? Or how do you foresee Dallas doing in comparison?
Well, I'll say that there's no market in the United States that's that has been as hot as Dallas over the last 10 years. In terms of number of companies we've been able to recruit and the number of new jobs that have been created. As I said earlier, I think we're going to come out of this. I think we're all sort of in a bit of a holding pattern right now on those two fronts for this year and probably next year. But once we come out of it, we're going to come out of it very well. And I think we'll separate ourselves from the pack even more on the other end of this.
This is Dale. This is another question for Dale. Companies moving to Dallas or the DFW Metroplex, North Texas, are they wanting to move to downtown, or are they looking, you said all those companies that have now even more approached you since COVID, are they looking for the suburbs?
It depends. It depends on the kind of company they are and what they want. So I'll give you an example. Toyota wanted a campus, so Toyota moves to Plano. Uber moves to Dallas, and they want to be in Deep Ellum. Right? Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
So it just depends on the type of culture you want, the type of employee you're recruiting, and so forth. Toyota's more families, they wanted more of that suburban feel, the schools and so forth. Uber may want younger people, technology people. Deep Ellum suits them a little bit better. So there's sort of the difference between companies. It just depends on what type of company.
Yeah, makes sense. And where the talent pool is, as we kind of talked
where
about
the
too.
talent pool is,
Yeah.
exactly.
That makes sense. Well, let's see. Dawn, it's a thank you for offering the homework assistance program.
there
They
you
said,
go.
what a wonderful company to work for.
Oh, that was,
I
thank
think-
you, whoever said that.
I know, that's
Yes.
exactly what I thought when I heard about it too.
Okay, this is for both of you. Post-COVID, How do you think downtown landscape will look from a commercial real estate perspective? Will large commercial office buildings stand vacant as employees shift towards a work from home mentality?
Yeah, I'll let Dawn take it
Oh,
first.
as we were talking during our pre-meeting, it's real interesting, and I think at first we all thought, oh, this is going to change the business landscape. People are going to work from home. But even over the 6 months that we've sent, some of our back room services have been working from home. You lose a little bit of the synergy. You lose a little bit of the teamwork that you had. And as you said, working in the office, if someone comes up with a great idea, it sparks right then. If you can walk down the hall and say, oh, what do you think about this? Versus sending an email, waiting for a response, or picking up the phone, leaving a message. So there's a lot of change with it. I do think that people they may want to do a bifurcated. They may want to work 3 days at home and 2 days at the office. Irrespective, we're going to need space for us to meet together. I do think it may be a little bit more spread out space then. So I might not pack a training room with full capacity. I might say, let's use this training room and we have half capacity, at least, of course, for a while. But, and then the open office has been interesting because so many went to the open office way of working where their desks were smashed together. Well, that didn't work for people now wanting to come in the office because they couldn't social distance within the office. Our offices, unfortunately, have been the old-fashioned office. We still had the closing offices, and we then had separate cubicles for people. But that worked well for us to keep still some social distance within our office and there. Having said that, what do I think the next landscape will look like? I'm not sure I see much change in my business. Many of our backroom services were working from home, but I still want to provide enough space to have a core team that can create the leadership and the synergy of improving processes and procedures. And I think you can only really do continuous improvement by a cohesive working together.
I think, Blair, what it's caused people to do is sharpen their pencils and say, do we need all this space?
Definitely.
Right? And it might be, and I don't even mean that now 20% are going to work from home and the rest are going to come in, but maybe they've got office space they're paying for that they didn't even need. They didn't even think about it very much because this is what we rent. But I think they feel like they've got leverage now a little bit. Right?
Definitely.
So this is the time to sharpen the pencil and kind of see if maybe we can, get a little bit better deal for ourselves. So
Makes sense. I know we're about out of time. Let's see if there's one more question. This one's for Dawn. From a residential real estate perspective, have you seen a pickup in DFW home sales from out-of-state buyers? Dale, you can probably add to this with all the companies moving here, but
sure, I'd love to hear the answer though. Yeah.
Without a doubt. There are a lot of people who are wanting to move to Texas. I mean, who wouldn't? I'm not even from Texas, and I got here as soon as I could. But there's a lot of people that want to come to Texas. And interestingly enough, it's not just all the amenities we have to offer. It's a more open, friendly environment.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I miss now when we put our masks on, we're not the usual people that walk down the street and say hello to each other. And I don't know what the mask does to not want me to say hello to you, probably because I can't see you smile. But having started college experience in the East, nobody really looked at each other when you walked down the road and said hello. And so I miss that camaraderie. I hope we get back to that. But I think that's a very welcoming. When people finally get here and get their feet on the ground here, they go, wow, this is a very friendly environment.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think one of the reasons for the screens, frankly, one of the advantages of the screens right now is that you can see faces.
Yes.
And it's sort of one of the few places where you can, other than your family in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to see a lot of folks from a lot of different parts of the country, especially California, moving in. I don't understand why California didn't get the memo, doesn't get the memo. I mean, it's ridiculous that they're just willing to let people walk, and they don't seem to care much about it.
At SMU, I've served many times on the board there. They cap the number of people from from California, because they could fill their whole freshman class with that.
Is that
people
right?
just swarm down here.
Wow,
So
interesting.
I think the weather is somewhat comparative. No water
Yeah,
around here,
they
but
can go home in the
yeah,
summer, too.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I'd say they're all smart California people coming to Texas. That's
Yeah,
the right
there you
move to
go.
do.
There
I
you go.
agree.
All right, so anything would either of y'all like to add today to finish out today?
I'd just like to say thank you, and thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun. I love spending time with Dawn, and I love to getting to know more about Allegiant, and I'm just more impressed all the time with your company.
Well, you're very kind, and I want to add, and that sounds like a fan fest here, but the chamber has been very valuable to us this year, particularly in this uncertain market. You have communicated so well and been there for all of us. Your staff, I can pick up the phone, anybody can jump in and help, and it's just, this is uncertain time, and as a leader of a company, your staff look to you for answers. And this has been a very difficult time to have the answer. But it's nice to have someone who we can lean on and share best practices. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, and
Appreciate that, Dawn.
I want to thank you both. Well, on behalf of me, thank you for being here. But on behalf of all of the people watching today, I know that we can all say that we appreciate your insights into Dallas and what the future is going to look like for this community and for the DFW Metroplex as we grow and continue on during this health crisis. I know things will improve, and we're already doing well as a state and an economy as we are now. If anyone is looking to buy a home, I want to put in a little plug for Allegiance or refinancing. Please look to Allegiance Title to use one of our awesome escrow officers. We've got great escrow teams, so please look at us and email us, call us if you have any questions. Thank you all.